Welcome back, guys, to another edition of the Go Earn It podcast. And today, my guest is Seth Gross. Seth, how's it going today, buddy?
Going good. Finishing up with a couple tests and finals next week. So, yeah, doing good.
Awesome. For listeners that don't know, Seth, thank you for being on the Go Earn It podcast today. Seth Gross is your 2018 Division I national champion. And he had a crazy road to the title, and he's been through a lot, so we were happy to have him on today to talk a little bit about his story and just to see what he got in store for the future. So, Seth, I want to start off real quick by saying congratulations. Great job on a great year this year. I mean, you went through a lot of adversity, ups and downs, but ultimately you reached your goal and you got what you wanted to get, which was a title. So you want to talk a little bit about that real quick?
Yeah, definitely. It was a really fun year, just being part of the best Jackrabbit team in our school history and getting 3 All-Americans. I mean, it was fun just being able to see our seniors get the job done too. And obviously my goal was to be a national champ too, so that was awesome and a goal of mine. And like you said, I had crazy match in the semis. I lost to Bryce at 140. I bumped up to 141, so I lost that match. And had a few close matches here and there, but, was able to figure out how to get the job done, keep moving forward, and get that title. But, like I said, it was just awesome being a part of, the best school or best team in school history, becoming the first national champion actually any sport for South Dakota State. So that was really cool. So just awesome to be a part of it.
Yeah, so I was we'll get into that a little bit later about South Dakota State, but I just wanted to start off by talking about the opportunity we had to meet each other last weekend. Tell me a little bit about that. I'll let you speak about the event, and then I'll talk a little bit about it myself.
Yeah, it was super cool just getting out there. I was, happy for the opportunity to come out and, got to work. Bryce was there too, so that was really cool just to hang out with him a little bit. We know each other from, that match we did and just wrestling in the past. We've talked a little bit too. So just getting to go out there, that was really cool and just, go show the kids our stuff. And it was really fun. And then, you guys had your stuff there and, did an awesome job. Got to see that flying around a little bit and get some awesome footage and videos of that. So that was really cool.
Yeah, for listeners, Seth and Bryce were kind enough to fly out to Chicago to be at Ncaa High School in Illinois to run a clinic for the Illinois Corn Stars. They're one of the bigger premier youth wrestling clubs out in Illinois, and so it was an awesome opportunity for not only Seth but Bryce Meredith as well to come out to Illinois and check it out and check out what Illinois has to offer. You want to talk a little bit about how the experience was flying in and just hanging out with Gavin and the guys at the Corn Stars?
Yeah, it was cool. It was kind of crazy. So I was actually in New York beforehand and supposed to fly home to Sioux Falls Saturday morning and then fly back to Chicago later that day. And Sioux Falls got hit with that crazy snowstorm that day. So both my flights from Sioux Falls actually got canceled. Luckily, I got to call the airlines and they flew me directly to Chicago, so I didn't have to go through any of that. So actually, it ended up working out pretty good. But,
awesome.
Got in and got picked up by Gavin, and we actually went straight to Cubs game. So that was pretty crazy experience.
Yeah.
The weather was pretty awful. It was freezing and raining, and
I heard it wasn't that fun in the aspect of the weather.
Yeah, and then so we stuck it out all the way to the 7th inning, and it was 10-2. Cubs were losing, and we were like, well, let's call it, boys. So we walked across the street to get some food and warm up a little bit, and we look over to the stadium. All of a sudden, the score is 10-10.
Yeah.
And crazy game, and we had just left, and they end up winning 14-10. So I guess we ended up missing a pretty crazy comeback, so that kind of sucked. But it was miserable out there.
For sure. Yeah, man, and so the experience out at Ncaa was awesome. I didn't know what to expect, coming out to visit, a couple of college wrestlers right now in their prime of, their career as of right now. And when I walked into high school, you guys are just laying around just like a couple of wrestlers would, and just, you guys were the coolest, down to earth, no BS. You guys are very welcoming, and Very nice. So I appreciate that. And same with Bryce. You guys both were awesome to me and our brand. So what I found was interesting about you per se is that when it comes to coaching, it's kind of a natural. You take it as a natural ability for yourself to be able to coach these kids and whatnot. Talk a little bit about the dynamic of being at that clinic and how you treat coaching the youth as a part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, the way I think about it, this is the future of wrestling right here, and, giving back and growing the sport is, something I want to do. So every chance I get, get with these kids, I want to show them, my stuff, and hopefully they pick up a thing or two. That's awesome. It's going to help them down the road and help them be better wrestlers. So, it's just, and I enjoy that, just seeing, making the kids' days, and then, a lot of them were fans of me and Bryce, so that was super cool. Just taking pictures with them, signing stuff, all sorts of stuff. I just love that aspect. And, when you're teaching moves and stuff and you're seeing kids actually learning it, that's just a great feeling.
Right.
And just something I really enjoy.
Yeah, so have you always been in that kind of role, especially just, getting better in your craft in wrestling? Have you always been that type of leader where you take it upon yourself to do some coaching on the side like you did for these kids in Illinois?
Yeah, a little bit. Definitely a lot more in the last year or so, where I've really think I want to be a college coach one day.
Really?
So I really stepped up and tried to, become more of a natural leader for my team at South Dakota State when I go to these things, and just learning to show technique and stuff. And, we got a really young team right now at South Dakota. So, I've kind of had to step up a little bit and take some guys under my wing. So I think it's big that I learn these things now, and that's going to help me down the road. But I love helping guys out, and it's even better when they're your teammates. So
besides NCAA's, obviously a couple weeks back in Cleveland, was meeting up with Bryce the first time you guys have met up since that match you guys had previously in the year?
Yeah. So we saw each other at NCAAs and stuff, and
right.
But yeah. First time we'd been hanging out a little bit. And
so tell me about that experience. Tell me about Bryce Meredith as the person, because everybody knows who you two are, obviously, but everybody knows one side of you, whether that's between what you're displayed on social media or whatever it may be. Tell me about the engagement you guys had together and just being around each other.
Yeah, it was awesome. Bryce is an awesome dude, and every time I step on the mat against him, he's a competitor, and obviously kick his butt, but off the mat he's an awesome guy, and just it's cool to hang out with a dude like that. Just like it just shows that we can be the biggest rivals on the mat, but at the end of the day, we're wrestlers. We want to grow the sport. We want to do what's best for these kids, and we're gonna put all that aside and kind of be friends, hang out, and we want to push each other. And that's what that match was about, was pushing each other to be better wrestlers, not just caring about winning or losing, just getting the best we can.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I noticed between both of you especially is that when that whole thing, I don't call it a Twitter beef, but, it is what you guys did. You guys started this little, not controversy, but this little hype. And then eventually it turned into something big, and you hear, I was listening to the podcast you did with Mindset Mike over at Wrestling Mindset, that podcast, and, he was talking a little bit about how you guys kind of started this trend where, these guys are just calling each other out left and right, for matches. And I think you two did it in a way where it wasn't trying to be malicious, or you weren't trying to be, I'm going to, literally fight Bryce or anything. It was just getting people excited about wrestling, because I've always mentioned this in previous podcasts. Right now, wrestling's kind of at this plateau where, we haven't seen decline, but we haven't seen growth either, especially after the couple of years back when they were trying to get rid of wrestling in the Olympics. And that's when you saw the increase. And now it's kind of plateaued where we got to figure out ways to get people motivated to learn about the sport and watch it. And I think that was a perfect way you guys can display that, is by wrestling different weight classes. It's no different than MMA when guys go up or down weight classes to fight for super fights. Why not super matches? So tell me a little bit about that process, about guys wrestling in different weight classes. Do you think we're going to start seeing that more often, or you think this is just from time to time people are going to start doing this more?
I mean, even since that match, I've seen tons and tons from the high school level to college, but and now Burroughs and Chamizo.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, man, just to think that it all started in the little town of Brookings. So it's cool, yeah, I mean, I think we'll see more and more in the future. I know if I get the opportunity to do that, something like that again, bump up and wrestle the number one guy, if it's Yanni or somebody like that, like, I'd love to take the opportunity. And like you were talking about, like, it's never like me calling them out, like, I'm going to kick your butt, stuff like that. Like, that's not the type of person I am, but, like, go out there and get better and, let's do it. Let's put it on for the fans and stuff like that. And I think, like you said, it's huge for the sport. The amount of attention that match got was crazy. I mean, more than we ever imagined. Off of, I tweeted out a picture and Bryce just said, me and God's Wrestler 133. Wasn't saying like anything mean or
no, not at all.
Kind of, brought up the idea of it. And I was like, hey, let's finish our best of three. And, it was all friendly,
Right.
And then, we even were messaging each other about it. Like, hey, is this actually going to happen, man? I was like, yeah, maybe, it'd be awesome if it did. He's like, yeah, the fans would love it. And we're just tweeting back and forth, messaging each other. And
right.
Like, there's no bad blood there, and it's just fun. And then, obviously he got to South Dakota, and after the match we hugged it out and said nice job, and that was that.
Yeah, the cool thing about wrestling too, especially, is that when you do that, call the guys out. It's not like a team or club sport where you can't really call out somebody individually. You can call out a team, but sometimes that might not come to fruition. But with wrestling, it's so easy because, you can, like you said, you bumped up a weight class and you competed against one of the best at that weight class. And so, you answered my question, but I was going to ask, are you looking to do this again sometime next year, during the season, maybe call out some guys like Yanni? Is that, I know that's not necessarily a goal that you need to do that, but has that come across your mind?
I mean, yeah, it'd be fun, man. I know Yanni pretty well too. We've been out at the training center, so we're buddies too. So if that came about, that'd be fun. If he's gonna be the number one guy at that weight. I don't know if we see them on our schedule, so that might be tough. But if the opportunity ever presents itself, I'm not ever gonna back down a chance like that. To put my school on the map, to grow wrestling. Every chance I get, I'm gonna take the opportunity.
Yeah, that's a good segue to talk a little bit about South Dakota. So I know we can beat on a dead horse about the stuff you've been through in the past with Iowa, and I really didn't want to go there because everybody knows kind of the story, especially if you know Seth Gross and what you've been through, and you really changed everything around and made a huge transformation, especially this year. I wanted to shine light on the school that no one really ever heard of until you went there and won a national championship for the first time ever at the school history. Tell me a little bit about not only the process of the transfer over, but how were you received when you came back after winning the title?
Yeah. I mean, just coming to South Dakota, the moment I got here, it's just been, amazing. The community's been awesome. They've had my back since day one. The team took me in right away and, treated me like a brother. So it's just been awesome. And just being able to put it on the line for these guys every day has been fun. And, that's kind of God and the team are kind of what's driving me and my family. And so it's been a lot of fun. And, coming back after that Ncaa title, man, it was crazy.
Got crazy, huh?
Literally walking around campus, 100 people coming up to me saying congratulations, going to Subway, everybody in there.
I was going to say, how many selfies did you take probably with a bunch of people that went to school with you or have class with you that recognize you as just a regular student every day, but when they see you on the news, TV, everything, it just changes your whole world.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. And then even walking into most of my classes, they were giving me rounds of applause as I walked in and stuff, and it's just, it's so cool,
Now,
man.
How do the teachers treat you? Because that's what I'm really curious about. It's one thing to have fans that are some of your classmates and everything, but how have the teachers, professors, staff received, your accomplishment?
Yeah, they were ecstatic about it, and my teachers are awesome, man. They've been so flexible throughout the wrestling season, and everything, and working with me training and having to leave and all the tournaments we have, and they've been awesome. And when they got back, they were fired up, and they just sending me email as soon as I won the final, saying awesome job and things like that. So they're awesome, man, and it's cool because here you get to it's smaller school, so you get to know your teachers a little bit and create relationships with them. So it's super cool.
Yeah, so that's a good question I've been meaning to ask as well. Is Obviously, South Dakota State, I'm assuming, is not Iowa. So tell me the perks of the new university compared to Iowa. Not the trash on Iowa or say anything bad about Iowa, but tell me what you've seen as highlights and benefits to going to South Dakota versus Iowa. What do you notice a difference in?
Yeah. I mean, I loved Iowa. It was a good school. Just obviously things didn't work out, and it wasn't the fit for me. But at South Dakota State, and just kind of I talked about it a little bit, but it's just a tight knit group. You get to know so many people in town and create so many awesome relationships that you might not get the chance to at a big school. So I think that's really cool. And you go to Subway and everybody that works there. You go to Buffalo Wild Wings, the waiters and stuff, and just things like that. It's just a close group. And then it just feels like a big family here in Brookings. And we got everybody's diehard Jackrabbit fans in town because that's basically all there is in Brookings is Brookings is South Dakota State. For athletics, that's the big thing in town. So everybody backs behind it, and our fan base is unbelievable, and just everything's awesome. And then our athletic director, he comes to our matches and he shows up at the Ncaa tournament. You don't see that in a lot of the big schools. They got a lot of stuff going on and don't always have that time. But he makes sure he was there, and he was one guy that I won that national title, ran out down into the tunnel, and he was there to give me a hug and say awesome job and tell me how proud he was of me and stuff. And you're not going to really see that at big schools.
No, I was going to say, especially you maybe for a school like yours, but I'm going to bet not of a lot of the Division I schools ADs were actually at NCAAs this year, and that's because wrestling, unfortunately, is not always at the top of the totem pole, especially with March Madness basketball and everything else going on. So it's cool to see that the staff really respects what you did, and they care for what you're building. So before we talk a little bit about your team over in South Dakota and everything, tell me a little bit about. I'm curious to know your education background. Like what are you going to school for? What are you up to? What are you learning? Tell me a little bit about that. Not a lot. We don't ever get a chance to talk to wrestlers about what they're actually doing at school because they're always training, and it's kind of put on the back burner. Knowledge and education is important, but when you're in a sport like wrestling, your life's wrestling. So I want to know a little bit about what you're learning and how you're applying it, and what you plan for graduation. That's coming up, within the blink of an eye. So let's hear about it.
Sorry, that was my dog. But
you're good.
But I'm going to school actually getting an interdisciplinary studies major, which some people might not know what that is, but it's kind of taking courses that you got to get one minor at least, and then a certain level of 300 classes or above. But basically, just take classes that you think are going to help out with your future and stuff. So I'm doing a lot of marketing, entrepreneurship, communications, stuff like that. And the ultimate goal is I want to be a college coach one day. That's what I want to be. And then along with that, I'm big in my faith, so that's a big part of my life. So I want to also use my platform in wrestling to kind of get the faith out there, and maybe do something with that too. So there's a lot of different things, but I'm always all over the place, man. Never bounce from idea to idea, but just really just taking wherever God wants me to go and following that path. But I'm getting that kind of that entrepreneurship and marketing and communications, because that's stuff that's important and you can use pretty much in any job you get. So
big time.
I
found it cool that not only I met you a couple weeks back, but we were chit chatting and I asked you to be on the podcast and everything. The cool thing for you, or for me, was that you weren't in it for yourself. You were asking me questions off air, and we've been emailing back and forth and whatnot. So I think it's really cool that not only you're not just focused on who Seth Gross is and building your personal brand, but you're trying to build a future for yourself, and so it's good that you're getting into marketing courses, entrepreneurship and whatnot, because that's ultimately, wrestling, there's not many avenues to take after you graduate college. There's the Olympic level training, and that only comes so far. Only 1%ers get to go on to compete like that. Most of the time, most other Division I athletes either go out of wrestling into another career or fighting. the avenues are limited, but I think it's cool that you're diving into everything and learning. So let's talk about South Dakota State as your athletics program and the career you're building there. Tell me a little bit about not only the training you get there, but the wrestling room itself. You know, it's not, I'm going to bank on it, it's not like Iowa, anything like Iowa. Tell me about their style of training and everything like that.
Yeah, we just had a coaching change, so it's a little bit different right now. But, this past year, it's really just getting our guys tough. That's been a big thing. We haven't had the most talented teams, and the guys we're getting in here, don't have the most skill and stuff. So we got to beat a lot of teams on conditioning and toughness and things like that. So, like, the past 2-3 years, we've really focused on, just working our butts off, getting up 6 a.m., getting running, lifting. And, probably more running than any school in the country this last couple of years. So that's one thing we focus on, make sure we're in good shape. And then just a lot of live wrestling and just getting after it. And, that's one thing. And the one thing I want to talk about is probably just, how awesome these seniors have been. Luke Silverberg's one guy, he All-American this year. And he was a walk-on. And there was way better recruits coming out of Minnesota when he graduated that, Minnesota didn't really want him and other schools didn't want him. And he came here and he worked his butt off. And, seeing him get that All-American status was just unreal feeling, man. Just, came up and after he won, he was crying and, I got to hug him and stuff. And that's the stuff that's just super, super cool. And, you're not going to necessarily see that at big schools either because, they're expecting that stuff. And, their recruits are already top guys who have seen success. But seeing somebody who he never won a state title, he got second at state a couple times and, was all right his first few years. And just seeing the progression and him getting that done was just, that's one of the highlights of of this year was just seeing him do that. And just how all that emotion he had after that match and how happy he was just a really cool thing. And same with Dave Kocher. There's a pretty cool video on him after his match too. But he's the guy too that just worked his butt off and he got a little bit better each year. And then last guy is just Nate Roeder. He's a huge part of this team. He's the one that kind of made it okay for South Dakota guys to stay at South Dakota State. All the decent guys in South Dakota were transferring out, going elsewhere, and he kind of stepped in and said, I'm going to go to South Dakota State, and that kind of set a trend for South Dakota. And, he went, a lot of people don't know, but he went through some crazy stuff this year. He got in a moped wreck and almost died before season started.
Oh, wow.
And, he didn't make any excuses. He didn't try to find a medical red shirt or anything. He just figured it out and got ready for our second duel of the year against Minnesota. And, just figured it out and wanted to finish his year with the team. And, he was blood round and Big 12 champ. And, he had a great season. And I know he's bummed that he didn't get that All-American. But, he's been a huge leader to me. And I know many other guys on the team. So, I can't say enough awesome things about him, too. Now,
with the coaching changing and everything, tell me how you've dealt with that as not only being a leader for your university, but the team itself. How does that come into play, especially during one of the best moments of your life, winning a national championship? How did you combat dealing with not feeling too frustrated, too upset? How did you handle all that news?
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. When I first found out, I was like, "Geez, man!" It took away kind of a little bit from winning the national title.
Yeah, because I'm sure he was a pivotal.
Yeah,
he was a pivotal part of your career right now.
He took me in, and he helped me get my life straightened out, and that was huge. And just all of a sudden, boom, he's moving on, and I'm not gonna I can't go with him and stuff like that, and all of a sudden I'm gonna have to deal with a new coach my senior year, and I didn't know who it was gonna be, and it was stressful, man. And at first I was pretty upset about it, and as I thought about it, you just gotta trust God's plan, and maybe Damien, the new coach that steps in, maybe I got some stuff that I got to learn from him, and that's why this had to happen, things like that. But, stepping up as a leader has been a kind of big thing because, if I'm confused and stressed out like this, I can't imagine what, the younger guys are thinking right now, So I kind of had to set aside my emotions and my stress and kind of focus on these guys. I try to talk to them a ton about it, sit down with the team and discuss things and, let them know that it's going to be okay. And, that we just got, the most important thing is your team, coaches come and go all the time. And,
right.
if we stay together as a team, we're going to be all right. If we break off through this, and you guys start trying to leave and go left and right and go all over the place, it's going to ruin this program. So I really tried to keep us in just a tight-knit group. And, for the most part, everybody stuck around, and that's a big thing. We had a couple guys, a guy or two that are leaving and recruit that didn't pan out because of it. But, for the most part, the team's sticking around, and, we love each other, man. We're not just going to leave like that. So
right.
It's been a crazy process, but I think now we're finally past all that, and we can move forward into keep moving the program in the right direction and just focus on our training.
Now, I'm sure it's a perk now for South Dakota to have a Seth Gross on their hands because it brings in, I would say, more recruits. So tell me a little bit about how the coaches have utilized you in a way to get, these great athletes coming out of high school to come over to your university and compete with you guys.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty in myself. Like, I'll hit up dudes all the time.
Yeah.
Like, yo, training partners, man, come out to South Dakota State and stuff like that. And, I want the team to do well too. So I'm a part of that too. I want best partners I can have, and that's going to help me become a better wrestler. And I think, that's going to help these guys come in. I'm going to push them. I'm going to teach them what I know and stuff. And, I think that's just going to help the program. And, the coaches, they really involve me with a lot of the stuff they do, which is, important. Just getting to see, kind of what they have to do for recruiting wise and all this stuff. And, getting a little experience of what coaches do right now, I think is big for me too. But, they involve me and, let me know who they're talking to and let me know, maybe have me shoot them a message, see what they're thinking and stuff. Because sometimes it's easier to talk to an athlete, about things and how the school is and stuff than talking to, sometimes when you talk to coaches, it might feel like they're just going to feed you, like, all the good stuff and maybe
right.
not mention everything. Whereas, I'll probably be a little more honest with them, positive, negative, stuff like that. So.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. We got a couple minutes left, and I want to touch on a little bit of two things. The first part, when you were going into NCAAs, I noticed that you got off social media, or at least took a break from social media. Not a lot of guys will do that. Some do, but I want to talk in depth about that more than anything because it's crucial. I'm starting to understand now, especially with social media. I'm a marketing manager for social media accounts and platforms. Tell me how important it is to sometimes have to go on the back burner and shut Twitter off and Instagram. Tell me how that's made an impact on your training. Yeah,
it's huge because, especially before NCAAs, one thing, is you can't get kind of caught in the hype. And before NCAAs, like even months before, people were tweeting at me, Gross got this in the bag, blah, blah, and like I was the favorite and stuff, but like, people saying that might have me get a big head, not train as hard as I should, or like, and then other people saying like, no way he's gonna do it, he choked last year in the fall, just little things, just that, you can easily avoid by just staying away
right.
for a time. And I think I love social media, man. I'm all over it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But, there's a time where it's just, you got to focus on what you got to do and kind of get it, just focus on that national tournament, put everything else aside and, not listen to the hype and what people are saying and just focus on what I got to do personally to make sure I'm ready to go for the national tournament. And it's tough when, constantly reading things. I had a problem with reading message boards, reading every tweet about me and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what, I got to put this aside. Just literally phone calls and text messages are all I'm going to do, maybe emails, but everything else, done. I'm not going to go on message boards. I'm not going to go on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So I think it really helped me just be more clear-minded. And it really does give you a different perspective. You enjoy just going outside more and just looking around. And now I'm not on my phone now. I'm just like kind of looking around, enjoying things.
Yeah.
You notice things you don't notice, so it's really cool. You get your mind cleared a lot.
Now, do you think this is something that you would so did you initiate this? Did you have somebody tell you, hey, you should get off social media, or was this something that you had this in the back of your mind coming into NCAAs?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to do it a couple times in the past, and I ended up, after a couple of weeks, I was like, man, I can't do this and stuff like that. And I was like, I finally, I was like, I got to do this, man. Like, I don't want what to happen last year to happen. And, little things add up. So I was like, I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
Every little thing counts. Social media, if it's eating right, if it's sleeping right, do every single little thing right. And I think that being off social media for a time was the right thing to do. So I did it. And, I to convince myself to do it, I was like, if you go on social media, I'm going to lose the national title. That kind of
no pressure, right?
Yeah, so it's funny. I do that about a lot of things after. Like,
yeah.
A big problem last year is I love potato chips, all sorts of chips. So, piece of paper before
What brand are we
season,
talking? Lay's? Some Lay's Ruffles? Or
everything, man. Every kind of chip, literally.
Yeah.
So, before season, I just kind of wrote down, I was like, you cannot eat a chip unless you win a national title. Didn't eat another chip until after nationals, so.
That's funny. So yeah, that's interesting, and I think it's good that we bring it up because it might be important for guys to listen to and understand that, as much as it's important to have social media, it's also important to give yourself a break from that phone because, like you said, a lot of stuff gets hyped up. Like there's good and bad. There's good when Bryce Meredith and Seth Gross get hyped up to be one of the biggest matches in college history. But at the same time, when you read all those comments and, Bryce sucks or Seth sucks or Bryce is better, you get all that in your brain. Mentally you think you could block that out, but a lot of guys don't let it blocked out. Don't let it get blocked. So they take that to their mindset. And like you said, you can have all these people chirping in your ear that you're going to win it, but that doesn't mean that they're going to do it for you. You got to do it yourself. So the last part I wanted to talk to you about, and once again, thank you, Seth, for being on the Go Earn It podcast today. Appreciate you wearing our shirt too. That's awesome. Thank you very much for doing that for us. I wanted to talk because I listened to your podcast with Mindset Mike, and I didn't want to take away from his podcast talking about faith. But obviously, it's something that I had to bring up towards the end of the podcast, just to chime in on it a little bit, because you guys talked about a good hour of it on his podcast. So check that out on Mindset Mike's podcast. But for the Go Earn It podcast, tell the listeners why Seth Gross really, follows his religion, and tell listeners why it's important for you as an athlete.
Yes, it's a huge part of my life, and it's, God's got me through a lot of tough stuff in my life, and definitely don't think I'd be where I am today without, him. And, I just, I talked about it a little bit in that podcast, but, younger age, I almost felt embarrassed of my faith a little bit maybe, and my dad would pray with me before matches at things, and, I felt a little weird, like nobody else was doing that.
Right.
And just kind of wanted to fit in, and I didn't really get what it was all about back then. So it was tough, growing up, and then, I really didn't get too crazy into my faith until, after that whole Iowa incident, and I realized, I was living my life way too much for wrestling, and wrestling was, everything in my life, and that kind of, that's, I think, caused a lot of problems for me, and, I finally, figured out, God's got to be first in my life, and he, through his grace, I got another opportunity, and, from that day on, I promise, I'm never going to be ashamed to, wear God on my shirt, and just get his name out there, and every chance I want to use this platform, the best I possibly can to get his name out there. And then, just another aspect is, I think it really does help me in wrestling take a lot of pressure off of things. When you're doing it for something bigger than yourself, it becomes so much easier. So I think that, there's a lot of awesome things with, having a strong faith in the sport of wrestling, because, a lot of people, it helps with the hype. It helps with, just controlling yourself, and, and those days you don't feel good, just praying, and just all sorts of stuff. I think it takes a lot of pressure off you, and just really lets you go out there and compete to the best of your ability when you're doing it for him.
Yeah, big time. And whether or not you are a religious person, as you're listening to this right now, I think it just you brought up a good point that when you're wrestling for something bigger than yourself, it takes all the pressure off of being a good wrestler. When you have nothing to lose and you're doing it for the greater good, it doesn't put as much pressure and stress on a wrestler's mindset. So for you, what are some of the little things that you involve your faith with wrestling? Could you chime in a little bit about what you do that might reflect on your training as far as, like, obviously you're not praying before practice every day, but tell the listeners, a little bit about, what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I read, a lot of Christian books. I read, verses every morning to kind of get my day going, little things like that. And I pray before my matches, pray a lot. And, there's just tons of little things. And then, just digging in the Word and a whole bunch of things. And then competition-wise, it's just praying. And then, like, even in competitions, I have a tattoo of it. Looking down at my tattoo reminds me of that. And wearing shirts that have, stuff about God on it. I think that's just a way I can help use my platform. So I think that's cool, and it's always, a reminder of why I'm doing it. Sometimes you get caught in things and you kind of like start forgetting that, I got this talent because of God, and I'm where I am because of, the talents that He's given me, and you kind of start forgetting that sometimes. So when you can look down on your shirt or look down at my tattoo and just be reminded of that stuff, I think that's big. Yeah,
for sure. Would you ever consider possibly, especially that you have the interest in coaching, maybe creating a Christian-led wrestling group, something like that? I've noticed, especially nowadays as wrestling's kind of gaining popularity again, I've seen we've done stuff for Christian-based wrestling groups. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I've thought about that and different things, and whatever I do end up doing, if it's coaching or if it's leading a wrestling group or running a business, like faith is going to be involved somewhere or another. I'm gonna make sure that that's kind of the backbone of whatever I do, because that's huge in my life. So yeah, like whatever I do, that's the plan, is to involve my faith as much as possible and share it with as many people as possible. And if that's through a wrestling group, coaching, sharing it with my athletes that I coach, and, sharing just teammates, everything like that, I want to involve it as much as possible. For sure.
I wrestled Division III at a small college called UW-Whitewater in Wisconsin, and I had the fortunate experience to be coached under Ben Peterson, and Ben's running his own kind of religious-based camp called Camp of Champs, and he's very involved in preaching and everything. And the cool thing I found, whether you're religious or not, is that one thing that it does do, regardless if you want to buy into it or not, it forces everybody to be together. And it forces everybody to come together as one and form a goal. And, I found that very cool. With our training, for example, we spent New Year's Eve at his facility, and we had basically like a sleepover for the wrestlers. There's no partying, there's no drinking, none of that crap. But, it was still fun. We were playing dodgeball. We were playing, as old as we are, sometimes the partying and stuff is overrated, and believe it or not, it gets you in trouble too sometimes. You've seen it, you've experienced stuff like that, and sometimes going that party route and thinking you're going to get away with it all the time, you sometimes don't, and so I think it's cool that you're really preaching, your faith, and really changing people's minds on, being a religious wrestler, because it, you probably get your negative feedback and comments saying, oh, he's this, he's Bible pushing, all this stuff, the names. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that as far as the negativity goes?
Yeah, you're always going to hear that no matter what. And, like when I got in trouble at Iowa, I heard a ton of that,
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, this dude's name is God's wrestler, blah, blah, and, just making fun of me, ridiculing me about that. And it's like,
and it's funny they're ridiculing you, but isn't, and I'm not the biggest brainiac when it comes to Christianity and everything, but isn't it all based on being forgiven for your sins?
Yeah.
Why are you giving this guy crap for making a mistake? That's what it's all about. Understanding your mistake and making sure you make up for it, and you give yourself forgiveness. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly what I was about to hit on. Is that's the whole point of being a Christian is just realizing that I'm not perfect. I don't do everything right, and I'm gonna make mistakes every single day of my life. I'm not claiming to be this amazing.
Right,
person.
Just because your handle says God's Wrestler 133, I think a lot of people take that as a cocky, arrogant way to call yourself that, but I don't think you were trying to show the world that. I think you were just giving yourself pride in what you believe in. And a lot of people in the social media world and, on the forums and message boards, they could say whatever you want, but I don't think you ever meant to be calling yourself God's Wrestler as a Twitter handle, as something that you're trying to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm God's child, man. I'm here because of Him and everything, and so I'm wrestling for Him, and it's you're gonna hear negative things no matter what, and people are always gonna have things to say, but I'm not worried about that. I'm worried, for the 30 people that ask me, what's this all about, man, and all the positive things, and the people that want advice, and the people that have been through things and want to talk about it. That's why I do it. Those
for sure.
Negative people, I'm not going to say anything bad about them, but I'm not going to let it bother me, they're I don't know, but it's just I'm doing it for the positive things I hear and helping people and getting God's name out there and being able to strike conversation about it. That's a big thing is people see that Twitter handle, so they know, so they'll shoot me a message like, hey, what's this all about, man? And I'll get to talk to them about it.
That's awesome. So Seth, as we sign off, what have you been up to the last couple of weeks? You've competed recently. I don't need to harp on it too much. If you want to find out more, check out what Seth's done in the past couple of weeks. You'll find results and everything else. Tell me a little bit about how training's been so far and what you got lined up for the next couple of months as you're in off-season mode right now.
Yep, definitely. I'm heading out to Las Vegas tomorrow for the U.S. Open, so that's the big one this weekend. Depending on how that goes, I'll either wrestle the World Team Trials or the Final X Series. So, the plan is to make a World Team and give it my best shot. So,
awesome.
Just training hard through that stuff.
Good luck to you, man. Seth, my last question, as I always ask in the Go Earn It podcast, when somebody asks you, hey, Seth Gross, you have to earn it. What does Go Earn It mean to you?
It means, give it your best effort every day in, day out, no days off, and 100% in not only wrestling, but every area of your life. You can't do things wrong socially and expect to win. You can't stay up all night, expect to win. You can't expect to eat junk food and expect to win. So just doing everything right in every aspect of your life, and you're going to get what you work for. Awesome.
Seth, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. It was nice meeting you in person and nice to see you again on Skype. Where can listeners find you, follow you? I know I harped on it a little earlier, but where can we find you on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, so forth?
Yeah, just God's Wrestler 133 is pretty much what it is on everything. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. So you'll find me. Just search God's Wrestler 133.
Awesome. Thank you, Seth, for your time, and that is another edition of the Go Earn It podcast. Take care.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.